Voters Digest, the program that brings forward the social and political issues that are important to people living here in the Pacific Northwest. And now, your host, Bruce Broussard.
Welcome again to this segment of the Oregon Voters Digest. I'm Bruce Broussard, your host. And today, folks, we're going to be talking about Wapato here in Portland, Oregon. There's a lot that has been said about Wapato for a few months now, for a few years and whatever. But anyway, we're going to give you kind of an overview of Wapato. And the way we're going to do that, we're going to take some legitimate facts from one of our local media that did quite a bit on Wapato. And we're talking about the Portland Tribune newspaper, the Tuesday publication, October 15th, and the Thursday, October 17th publication. And in the Tuesday's publication, we've got Jordan Snitzer, who actually owns Wapato, and he was written by a gentleman by the name of Jim Redden, who's a reporter there, and public-private sector spars over best way to help homeless. You notice it's public-private. Here's a private entrepreneur, owner, if you will, who had a piece of property and decided that he wanted to give it back to the community. He wanted and address the issue of homelessness, as you know, which is a serious issue here within our state, within our city. And so what we're going to do for you today is that we're going to give you the opportunity to hear his story and his rationale and as it relates to Wapato and where he stands on that. We're going to do that as about a 25-minute video at a press conference, which, by the way, I attended. And he will basically give you that story. And then after we've done that particular story, we then are going to spend and talk a bit about homeless in our area here in the Portland Metro area. And I got a couple of guests here, one of which happens to be very much involved with the Neighborhood Association. And it's High Noon. He happens to be the president of High Noon on Hayden Island. And he's one of the Neighborhood Association. And we're going to have some discussion. And he's going to talk to you about the issue of homelessness as it relates to Hayden Island and spend some time there. And then I've got Richard Carpenter, who's also with us. As you know, Richard has his own show, and then the whole idea, we're going to extend that information back to his show, but we're going to have a discussion about that. And I guess the thing that will hopefully that will motivate you to really hear what we're about to say, because it is a major issue, and it's a crisis we're in, nationwide for that matter. But being that the largest city here in the state of Oregon, Portland, Oregon, and i.e. the largest county, which is Multnomah County, it is a major issue here. That's the way our major issue is. And I'll share this with you. In the 17th, the Thursday 17th, October 17th article, publication, there was an article here that on the front page that says homeless deaths hit record high. Study shows a 16% increase from 2017. Now, you can Google that article, by the way, from the Tribune. But the point I want to make to you is this: is that it talked about the number of deaths from this past year, this past winter, and this association with Wapato. It just so happened that the owner went to the city and the county, and basically said, "Look here, why not use this facility that I have and I own? I'll let the city and the county use it at no cost for the homeless here within this area for that winter." Well, guess what? They told him no. They said no. And I'm talking about from the state to the county to the city of Portland. All three of them, right down the line. It's a jail. It's a jail. It's too far from so-and-so, this, that, the other. They turned him down. And like I said, you'll get some other points that Jordan Snitzer is going to be making to you about what this facility looks like. But anyway, now here we are today. Got this article, homeless deaths hits record high, almost 100 people, or whatever, better than that for that matter. But the fact of the matter is, they turned them down. And then I noticed that, and Steve Deans, was a Channel 2 News. He's a Channel 2 News guy, and he had his show on a couple weeks ago, talking about the whole idea of with Deborah Kafori, the county person, who was pretty well representing the state and the city. She was speaking for them, basically, that matter. And she makes it very emphatic about the fact that it's a jail, it's away from so and so and this, that, and the other.
It's a warehouse.
It's a warehouse, yes, type of deal. But the fact of the matter is that, think about it. Had they said okay to Jordan Schnitzer, the people who are listed as dead today would have been alive today.
That's right.
They would have been alive. And that's really right in front with, that's one of the reasons why I got really, really excited about this piece, because I know that when I was running for county, district number 2, that was one of my main issues, was the whole issue of Wapato. And look at the seriousness of it. Look how it has gotten to date right now, and we're still going crazy nationwide. But I'm interested in Portland, Oregon, and Multnomah County. That's where I'm at right this point in time. So what we're going to do now, I'm giving you sort of a little introduction. We're going to look at the press conference at Wapato with Jordan Schnitzer. It's going to take about 25 minutes, but I'm sure it's going to be very, very interesting. Let's see if we can put that on now, okay?
My name is Jordan Schnitzer, and as many of you know, we purchased 18 months ago the Wapato facility. We're holding this press conference in one of the 9 wings because constantly in the press we hear this is a prison, that this was going to be a warehouse for homeless. I think, as you can see, there are no cells here. It's an amazing facility, built 20 years ago at a cost of $58 million. My gut sense is, with the interest expense and servicing that debt, this has probably cost the taxpayers probably close to $100 million. Now, when we bought this facility, we bought it for the land value. One of our businesses in my real estate business that my father founded 68 years ago is the warehouse business. And we have millions of feet of warehouses in 6 western states, including projects right down the street here. But having seen the facility, I thought before it would be torn down and built another warehouse, that it just begged to be repurposed. The first call I made was to Homer Williams, an old friend who's been an amazing developer. He helped create Forest Park Estates, the whole Pearl District, very visionary. He's devoting his life now to the homeless and helping those in need. The second person I called was Kay Turan, who will speak to you in a few minutes. I've known Kay for 30 years. I think she is one of the best executives in the state, and especially we're lucky she's in the nonprofit area. Volunteers of America is a $23 million a year operation, and when they were nice enough to award me a Jimmy DePriest Award some years ago, I visited their alcohol drug rehab program. I visited the after-school program. I visited the juvenile delinquent program. They're a proven provider, knows this world, and when she came and looked at it and said, as well as Homer, that this could be repurposed, that gave me hope. Without the professionals telling me that, I would have said, you know, I'm pretty good in the arts. There are a lot of areas that I think I have national expertise in, but while we have funded a lot of providers of alcohol, drug, forward stride with autistic kids, new avenues for youth, you name it, that's different than really knowing the intricacies of how you deal with people on the street that need medical, psychological, job training, and so forth. But when professionals in this industry said, this is too good a facility to tear down, that gave me hope. Unfortunately, after 18 months and some amazing proposals, okay, we still have not gotten anything in writing that lets us sign on the bottom line to do a lease. We'd lease this for $1 a year, okay? We don't need to make a profit on this. Okay? You look at this room right now. Last year when our mayor correctly during the winter called out for real estate owners to see if there was any vacant space, we offered 2 buildings downtown. But after they looked at them, we didn't have showers and bathrooms. You look right now behind us here, okay, there are showers, bathrooms. There's a kitchen here that could feed 1,000 people a day. There are recreation rooms, there's light. There's their ability to put beds up here with their own cubicles. Okay? There are recreation areas, there's intake areas, radiology, dental, medical. Okay? This facility has been designed fabulously to serve different population groups. But after 18 months and we've carried about $1.2 million of costs, we have no choice but to say, that's it. Whether I voted too much with my heart, because even today walking through this, I'm sickened that this is going to be demolished in the next few months. Does that mean if someone in the next 2 weeks before we sign a demolition contract comes through with something I can sign, we stop the demolition process and have it repurposed for the community? These are images of the wonderful warehouse we're going to build, and if we can't repurpose it, at least we'll build a warehouse. The Port of Portland's industrial park here has created thousands of jobs, and there'll be hopefully several hundred people working in the 320,000 warehouse that we will start construction in about 4 or 5 months and have done in about a year. I can't tell you how much I appreciated all the people that came forward with ideas. There was a group from Eugene that has a trial project down there for folks on the street that are at the level of hospice care. And they've got a 25-bed facility, people that are, the doctors say, have 3 to 6 months to live. Right now what they told me is, they collapse on the street, police come and get them, take them to a hospital, or they get the ambulance goes to the hospital, a day later they're released, 3 days later again. They gave us all the cost figures of what this is costing you and I, all the citizens, in terms of the care, let alone the lack of dignity for people with those last months of their lives. They wanted a wing. I said, that's a fabulous program, but what do I do with the other 8 wings? And I wasn't able to say, well, you take a wing, you take a wing. If a K-Turan took the project, or someone big enough, then they could work with transition projects, Central City Concern. The Catholic Church wanted 50 beds. We've had a number of people come to us, but we were not able to cobble enough of that together in one package to have a main operator of the facility. There's a man in town, John Niemeyer, known well, real estate developer. He said, Jordan, how much do you have in this? I said, we're up to around $7 million. He said, what if I matched that? Could we just operate it ourselves? I said, John, that's an incredible contribution. I said, but this is something, if this were a 40 or 60 bed facility, maybe we just do this on our own and call K-Turan in or someone. But this is like a 500 person kind of facility. It's too big for, we're proud of what we do in our foundation and the money we give away, but this is bigger than what we could handle alone, or 1 or 2 of us. It needs the kind of Volunteers of America, those kinds of organizations that know what and where and how to deal with different population groups. The last thing I'll mention is in terms of the homeless. I think there are so many misnomers about that group. We lump it into one word. And as we all know, especially all of you reporters, there are many different segments of people on the street. When the state closed Damish years ago, that unleashed a number of people that need mental health services. There are young people that like the shtick of being on the street. There are people who have lost their way and need a helping hand to get back in society. It was never the intention that this would serve all those groups. Maybe it's not right for many of them, but it certainly seemed appropriate for some of them. This last week, our office is on 12th and Salmon. On 12th and Salmon, in the last 10 days, on the parking lot around our office, Steve, our wonderful guard, I was walking in and he showed me this. This is a box of, last week there were 8 needles he found on our parking lot. Okay. Right now there are 2 tents there. I must applaud the police. They are fabulous. They always respond within a day. But it breaks my heart when they have such limited tools as to what to do with these folks that they're not equipped and trained to deal with. These aren't criminals, although there probably is a fair amount of criminal activity in terms of the drug users and so forth. So with that, let me answer a few questions, and then I'll turn it over first to Kay and then to Daryl, and you'll be able to ask them a lot more specific questions about dreams and goals that they may have had for the project. So
what's the disconnect? Excuse me. What's the disconnect between the city and the county? There definitely is one involved in this. The mayor a couple of weeks ago said, and it was in referring to Wapato, that if the dollars were right and the plan was right, he would look at it without a question. So what's happening? What's wrong?
Well, I think I've known Mayor Wheeler for a long time. As I've said, I think he is very smart, integrity, above reproach, well-educated. I think it's a complex situation being a mayor of our present city council. That's a whole other discussion. The last communication he had with me about this was, well, show me the sources and uses of funds for it. And I called him back and I said, Ted, that's not my job. Okay, I'm sitting here as a real estate owner saying, I'll lease this thing, cover my carrying costs, even $1 a year, we'll subsidize it, whatever. This is where there needs to be a partnership between the political leaders, the on-the-ground providers, plus all of us as citizens.
The county and the city say they have between $70 and $80 million to put toward homeless.
Some of those questions, I think, are better answered by Kay and Daryl and others. I think most of the citizens applaud all of the wonderful providers we have in this community. When I was on the Citizens Crime Commission, we did a study of homeless youth, and there were 47 providers. And there was some inconsistency, and some of them made it easy for the kids to be on the street. Some wanted to get them back into school with their families. This is 10 years ago. We went back with a recommendation, hey, county, pick one philosophy, and I think they changed their funding approach. There are wonderful entities right now that take care of thousands of our neighbors and friends every day. That we appreciate all those professionals that aren't here, that are on the ground working with treatment programs and so forth. The issue isn't whether nothing's being done. The issue is not enough's being done.
And why isn't it being done here? That's the question. What would you tell the citizens of Portland? What's the excuse for not using this?
I guess if you asked me if I was one of the political leaders, the speech that I would love to hear one of them tell us would sound something like this: that we've lumped all these homeless people into a category. These aren't nameless faces. These are somebody's kids, somebody's grandfather, grandmother, aunts, uncles, neighbors. These are us, not somebody else. Okay? And for us to sit by and let our friends, our neighbors, our citizens that grew up with us, be on the street, needing mental health services, drug rehab, alcohol rehab, okay, is a travesty. Okay? It should hurt all of our hearts. At the same time, as a real estate owner, my heart goes out to our tenants downtown, where they're tired of coming into work every day and seeing a sleeping person on their doorstep, seeing someone defecate right in front of customers coming in. We're big supporters of the symphony. Of course, my mother's name is on the symphony hall. To hear them tell us that a number of their subscribers are canceling because they don't want to come downtown at night and have to deal with the hassle of all the homeless people. To have friends come from out of town and say, boy, we've heard all these wonderful things about Portland, Voodoo Donuts and all these things, and my God, your homeless problem. Not that Seattle, not that San Francisco, not that LA doesn't have similar problems. Okay? So I think it's heartbreaking, and I think the biggest issue for all of us as citizens is we don't live in Mexico City. We don't live in India and see all those slums. We don't live in Brazil. I don't know what that would be like. I've never been to those places. But on one hand, you can't help to find yourself getting hardened when you see these folks constantly in your face. And that's probably the worst result of this issue. Okay? That where are our values? Okay? How can we be compassionate and feel we care about each other when we let those in need sit there in a horrible state? Okay? But the problem is, a number of people came and said, we'll give you $10,000 a year, $25,000 a year, $50,000 a year. But this is too big a project for Jordan to say, okay, I'm going to pull this all together and so forth. We need that political leadership to stand up, okay, and not criticize Wapato. Now, look, maybe they're right. Maybe Kate Turan, maybe all the providers that have come out here that are scared to criticize the political system because they get their funding from them. Maybe they're all wrong. I've never come here in an arrogant way and said, I know what this should be. What I did do is call professionals who deal with these people every day and ask them their opinion. And if they felt they could develop programs here that would help those aunts and uncles and grandparents and kids and nieces and nephews and neighbors, then I felt this facility needed a chance to prove that out. Unfortunately, with as much effort as they've made, we can't seem to get that alignment of the political, the provider, and us public together. We've had probably 150 just citizens come through here. And every one of them consistently has said, I don't get it, I don't believe it. Now what's interesting about the county is in terms of the county leadership that does a good job on many things. The current chair and county commissioners, they weren't at fault. They weren't here when this was created. So they can't be blamed for it being built. As to what role they should have taken, the mayor should have taken, the governor should have taken, they all seem to be doing their best, and for their own reasons, they don't seem to like this facility. I think they'd like to see this just torn down and out of sight and out of mind. I think, on the other hand, if any one of them or all of them together, right now we should have the mayor, the chair of the county, the governor right behind me saying, we've come together, and we're working with Kay and Central City Concern and Transition Projects and the University of Portland, and OHSU and Portland State and Reading whatever, and we're going to make this work. But they're not seeing it that way. I'm not being critical of them. As a citizen, I'm still aghast walking in here as I did this morning and seeing this thing and thinking this is all going to be rubble in 2 months. But maybe they obviously have a different vision. And again, part of that's better answered by some of the other speakers.
Jordan, your family's had a long history of philanthropy. Is it hard to let go of this and the potential of what you see in this building?
Well, speaking of junkies, I am one. I mean, most of my career, you've given you bios, I've been on 30 boards. God, if there was a cause there, I couldn't say no. And I'm proud of what I've done. Not only did I get to meet so many wonderful people on these boards I might not have otherwise met, but you know what's interesting in business? I've worked since I was 14. I started off as a janitor, and I've worked real hard, and we've been very successful. I'll never forget my grandfather, Sam Schnitzer, growing up in the Ukraine, lived in a hut with a dirt floor. Okay, we're as lucky as anybody else to have been in this country. Okay, and I've worked hard on all these nonprofits, and I've been proud of that. And there's a need for everyone to volunteer, whether it's an hour, a week, whatever. You get so much joy from it. But this one continues to break my heart coming in here. So I have an internal battle of my heart saying, no, give it 6 more months, give it 8 more months, 12 more months. My mind is saying, you got to put a stop to it. We're better off sending a check of $50,000 a month to Volunteers America than paying the interest expense and taxes and maintenance of the building. Breaks my heart. Yes, sir.
Mr. Schnitzer, thank you for your leadership, and thank you for bringing the team that you have brought together. I was wondering, have we had a chance to put the problem on its head? And what I mean by this, if the political world does not give us leadership, can we create the leadership from within and from the basis? And I'm going to start with one question. How many of you here, if you were homeless today, would agree to stay here tonight?
No problem.
I would have no problem. And I could bring my $1,000 a month that I'm getting to live on right now, and I could live here with $1,000 and help create this, what it is, what it can become, with the leadership of the organization that you're in.
Well, as I said, this was the announcement here today is we're moving in to tear it down. It's not that we're trying to blame anybody. It's we're trying to say that, you know, we've spent enough time trying, and how much respect I have for all the organizations that have come forward to try to make it work. The answer as to why it hasn't is everyone's opinion. As I mentioned last year when the mayor called around for real estate folks to offer some spaces when it was freezing out, they rejected our spaces because we didn't have the showers and bathrooms that are just sitting here. We got the plumbing, the heating, the roof, the exercise areas, abused women and kids for a couple months taking respite, classrooms made here. I mean, you've all walked through this. I mean, it was built really well with your money, okay? And I think it's sad. Maybe the political powers that be are right, and this is the wrong facility in the wrong place, maybe. You'll hear from others that probably disagree. And as I said, if someone comes forward with something, we'll stop the process, because it just would feel good to see that old thing about lemons and lemonade. I mean, whether this should have been built, whatever, obviously with it not being used for 20 years, probably wasn't the best use of public money. The greater travesty is tearing it down while you're still all paying the debt service on the bonds from 20 years ago. Another question? Yes, sir.
What do you see as the end use of this? Is this an e-commerce fulfillment center? And if so, what's the demand for that? Do you have any agreements with potential tenants?
Well, the industrial warehouse business is the biggest part of our real estate business, and we have offices in Seattle, Portland, San Francisco, Sacramento, Las Vegas, and San Diego, and properties in a few more cities. We tend to like smaller tenants that create more employment. This probably will be a 2-tenant building. Usually a building this size, we would have more like 8, 10, 12, 15 tenants in, but in this location, with the way this is designed, it'd probably be a bigger tenant and probably employ 30 to 100 people, whether it's fulfillment or manufacturing or distribution. We have 4,000 tenants, and there isn't a business activity you could imagine that we don't serve every day in our buildings.
Is there any help? Did you guys reach out to the RSA, the federal government?
There's been some discussion. State Senator Betsy Johnson, who I admire so much, has said, well, come to the legislature, we'll get you some money. Well, and she's done a heck of a job in the public sector, but that'll take another year. And what if that doesn't happen?
It should be coming back. There was just a delay there.
Nonprofits. I'd rather we on. We've had a vision where we've been easy to have said, we'll never accomplish this. And one of the city commissioners said in an article in the Oregonian last year, well, Jordan talks about a dream and we have to deal with reality. Well, I wanted to say to her, in my business, every day I wake up dreaming. Every nonprofit I've been on, dreaming. Look at the Japanese garden. When I got involved when I was 27 years old, we had 8 employees up there. Now they have 500,000 people. Steve Bloom's doing an amazing job raising more money than I ever could have imagined. But when I was asked to get involved with the Middleland Jewish Community Center and the Portland Jewish Academy, they had $2.8 million in debt, a projected $900,000 operating deficit. I saved it, had to shut things down, brought a crisis manager in. 20 years of the Astoria Column project I've been on dozens of boards where it's not just been nice, you get on and you're there for 3 years, and where I've had to roll up my sleeves and fiscally and managerially reposition things and so forth, and I've loved it, okay? And therefore, there's no reason why when I started on this project, it was a dream, and I thought with the people I brought in were the best in the community doing things, and I frankly am flabbergasted we hit such a wall on the political side. I would think if I wanted to be governor, I'd be sitting here, whether I was Ted Wheeler, Deborah Kafori, or whoever else, sitting here saying, hey, I'm pulling together a team, we're going to make this work, we're going to get people off the street. My God, the publicity they would get from all of you and the thanks from every citizen in this community, I think it's a natural. But they somehow see this project as an anathema that just should be, get it out of our sight, out of mind. And fine, this goes away. I guess if we tear this down, there should be a call to action by all of us. I say again, the best things I've done involve the private sector, professional organizations, and the public sector coming together. If we look back on this community, some of the best things that happened were when Neil Goldschmidt was mayor. He brought in lots of private sector people and had commissions. Vera Katz did a heck of a job. Okay? Today, for whatever reason, at the city, county level, even the state level, I don't see the politicians reaching out to the private sector and saying, here, you folks are smart, okay? Tell us how we should solve this problem. It's bringing us all together. None of us have all the answers all the time. That's where we come together, and out of that comes that magic of here's a plan, here's a vision, here's a way to do it. At least that's how I've approached all the nonprofits, and and my business career.
Jordan,
Yes, sir.
you're a dreamer.
Yes.
If you could dream and this all turned out, this facility could stay open and be useful, what do you need?
We need one of these politicians to stand up and say, you know what, I'll take the lead. I'll call my counterparts. Okay. K-Tran, come on in. Central City Concern. Here's what should really happen. Okay. One of these politicians should say, we're going to form a blue ribbon committee. We don't have all the answers. A lot of us have doubts about this facility being used. That's fair. Bring in the president of the University of Portland. Okay. Brilliant man. Have him head up a 12, 15-person commission. Bring in the heads of Providence and Legacy hospital systems. Bring in a few of the wonderful survivors that were on the street. The people that are on the street that now are productive members of society. Bring in Volunteers America, Central City Concern, Transition Projects. Bring in a couple downtown business people. Okay. Bring in OHSU and Portland State and University of Portland. And say, you guys have 90 days. You have all the resources. First, we want for you to account for all the wonderful providers and all the positive things that are being done. Let's praise what is being done. Let's let the public know every day the thousands of people that organizations like Volunteers America are taking care of. And then tell us best practices of what's being done in Seattle and in San Francisco and LA that are appropriate for this community. I mean, I was appointed to head up the Light Rail Commission, brought light rail to Portland. Then I was asked to help the commission about where it would go once it got here. I mean, this is what we do. This was decades ago, I've done other ones since. That's the way we work best. And there's an obligation for all of us in the private sector, no matter what station of life, to give back and be involved in commissions and the neighborhood association. We have some representatives here. We have 94 neighborhood associations that are amazing. Talking about power to the people. Those are the people. Those are the neighbors. That's where we live. They need to do a better job saying, we'll commit to start taking some of these folks into our neighborhoods. I'd call the bishop the Episcopal bishop of 70 parishes. I talked with the Bishop Henley. I've talked to the Board of Rabbis. I want to find some Muslim groups, the Catholic Church, and say there's probably 250 churches in our metropolitan area. Each one of them should say, we'll do our best. We've got parking lots. We'll all put 2 small little houses in our parking lot. We'll bring our sisterhoods and brotherhoods in to start working with, in essence, our neighbors. Now, the people to be placed in those would be the ones that the professionals say are appropriate for those facilities. Okay? Let neighbor to neighbor and citizen to citizen reach out and help take care of others in need. There's that statement that there for the sake of God go I, right? Especially those of us a little older. There are lots of times that tsunami-like things can happen in our lives that surprise us. Most of us are lucky enough to have friends, family that help us get through those periods. Some are less fortunate. Your wife leaves you, your job gets fired, your mortgage, your house gets repossessed, suddenly you're on the street or in the car. Okay, they need a helping hand. And that's not just from them, that should be from all of you and me and everybody else. That's what really builds a community. That's the community we are proud of now and want to continue to be proud of. What message are we sending to our children when they see all these homeless people? What, they're just nothing? Okay.
2 months until you tear it down?
We're getting bids coming in beginning next week from 3 demolition companies. It's going to be $1 million+ to tear it down. A lot of concrete here. And we're going to donate whatever we can out of it to any nonprofit that can use any of it. But and then there's about a 9-month construction period. Now on the business side of this, we reached out first to Metro, showed them what we're doing. They said you were one of the first developers ever come in to tell us all these things. We then reached out to the port that controls the property. Then we reached out to the Bybee Lakes Association and laid out how we're making this as ecologically friendly as we can. We're putting glass in the birds won't hit. We're putting low lighting. We're painting the whole building on the side green so it fits in and won't reflect the light so that the turtles and salamanders and the natural order can do as well as it can. We wanted to put some bird blinds and open up more to the public, but the port doesn't want to do that because they're developing another area of Bybee Lake over on the other side that'll be more accessible. So we pulled back on more of the amenities we were going to put in for the public. We are going to put some poles up with nests and things that are pretty fun to have birds nest there. Any other questions? And I'll let the people behind me talk. Anything else?
Kind of straightforward.
Yes, sir.
You're frustrated.
The business side of me says, get on with it. Just politicians, you want it torn down? Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. We'll get it torn down. Can't wait to build a warehouse. We love this. Okay, walking in here, the heart of me says, you got to be kidding. I'm seeing tent people on my parking lot, okay? And they could have beds here and have training here and have clean bathrooms and showers, okay? Okay? And half the people we understand, and Daryl Turner can probably give us the statistics, we understand half the people on the street are drug addicts and have a drug and alcohol problem, okay? Police aren't equipped to deal with that. They need to be in facilities like this. I think you'll hear from Kay Turan. This is a perfect location. The friends that I have, as all of you I'm sure have, that are former, well, they're always an alcoholic, always a drug addict, even if they haven't touched it in 25 years. What they tell me is the last place those recovery programs need to be are downtown, where there's an alcohol or drug dealing going on in the corner. Okay? So yes, am I frustrated? I'm frustrated with me that I didn't do a better job and looking back of coalescing some more people, whatever. Okay, we can always look back and think we could have done a better job. I'm so proud of the people that have worked on this. I'm disappointed that we weren't able. I wasn't, however, to bring the political process, the providers, and a lot of us together to make this fulfill what the voters spent money for. And that would be something that takes care of people in the community. All right. Thank you. And
Okay, well, now you've gotten sort of an intro of, as far as I'm concerned, Jordan did an excellent job, at least kind of giving you a feel from someone who has purchased something, who in most cases are basically looking for a profit, and now all of a sudden he's looking at it from a community standpoint.
Well, the best thing that came out of that whole conference is the fact that after he delivered all of that, he actually then committed to donating the facility. If it gets up and running for 2 or 3 years, he'll just write it off. That's a $7 million write-off. He did not say that at that particular meeting, but that's where he ended up.
That's where his head was.
Right.
He had something.
Yeah. One of the points I wanted to make was that I read in the paper is that he did not want to end up leasing it like to a nonprofit for this wing or another nonprofit this wing, and then he would end up being a landlord chasing tenants for the rent. And I understood that very much.
Well, and again, like you said, he was looking at the fact that this is going to probably cost about maybe $10 to $15 million a year.
Right.
Just to operate this particular facility.
$20 million at the max.
$20 million at the max aspect of it. And let me read you a piece that after in fact, I've got to give credit to Jeff, who's sitting here with one of the neighborhood associations who contacted me, who he'd known that I had basically was very concerned and interested when I ran for office during that time, talking about Wapato and the need to keep it. But anyway, I did a little background check, and I would think that these politicians that are sitting up there, they've got staff, and the other could have actually did a little bit more research. Let me give you a feel for what Multnomah County said about Wapato Detention Facility, and I'll read it so you know what the fact, and that's there, and you can Google it. Wapato is a 155,400 square foot minimum security detention center dedicated in July of 2004. The facility has never been used as a jail. There's no
bars in the whole place.
And has largely remained vacant since its completion. This page is designed to address the history and steps Multnomah County has taken to manage this legacy issue. So the key, the point I'm making is that there was always this reference about it being a jail, okay?
Right.
But as I indicated when we opened up this whole session piece aspect of it, the fact of the matter is over 100 and so odd people died last year in the inclement weather, and we're going to be facing another winter.
And those people, that statistic is only the people that died in a hospital. So we have no idea by that article how many more died on the street.
Right.
I saw where a bunch of them die in their car,
Yes,
which
sure.
that's awesome. dying in their car and then having to take them out of there.
So as far as I'm concerned, that was one of the things we were looking at. We were talking about this whole piece. Hopefully, and the idea we got to get this word out, and hopefully I'll make this point at this point in time. When you share this with your other folks out there, and send it out. In fact, give your city leaders a call. Give your county leaders a call. Call up the governor aspect of it. As Jordan said, let's put together a blue ribbon committee. In fact, we're starting right here. And I got to give credit to Jeff because, in all due respect, as far as I'm concerned, he's representing a neighborhood at Hayden Island, and he's seen the issues as it relates to homelessness as an impact of the neighborhood.
Yeah, and in every bad way you can think of. But we do something different at Hayden Island. We actually go up and try to confront in a nice, peaceful way a conversation with every homeless person that we encounter. And over the last year, we've not had one person volunteer to go have services or to get into rehab or anything. I think they're just totally frustrated with the policy where you get picked up, you go downtown, basically you're back on the street in one day or less, and I think they've lost trust in the services that are provided by this city. And yet here we have a facility that if you go and visit it, it's 9 different separate wings. You can have 9 separate types of problems there. You could have battered women. You could have children in a wing by themselves. The security can be embellished as needed, but on top of that, there's a lot of people that are on the street that seem to prefer living on the street for whatever reason. There is room on those grounds for tents. You could probably have a couple of hundred tents out there. They still have all the facilities, and more importantly, if the services are there, it'll help them with their addiction. They're not going to be able to get their hits, whatever it is their addiction is, because they'll be in a controlled environment, but a very nice environment. It's like that question, would you spend the night here? That place is still like new. It has been well cared for. But the idea that we could take 500 to 1,000 people off the street, maybe even as many as 2,000. There's even room for, I hate to bring it up, but the people that like their buses and their cars and stuff, there's parking for them. They could actually still be controlled in an environment that is beneficial. And it's all about livability. It's livability for them, livability for the neighborhood. I went in there hoping that the other 93 neighborhoods, 11 of them I do have a consensus of. I've not heard back from the other 83, but every neighborhood has this problem. As far as I'm concerned, Mayor Hales is the one that basically said every neighborhood should have a homeless camp. Well, we're suffering from broken windows policy in this city where if you don't fix a broken window, you're going to end up with another one. Well, now what we have is broken people as well as this broken window policy.
Oh yeah.
Everybody kind of agrees. That's the sad thing. And so this particular announcement by Jordan Schnitzer was phenomenal. I mean, he laid it out. And in fact, as you notice, if you watch that, he gets stronger and stronger as he's going. He said, I don't want to tear this down. I'll donate it if we can get it up and running.
Yes.
I have a lease agreement that his company provided me. If we need 90 days, if I could get 90 different companies to give us $1,000, that gets him through 90 days. And then during that period of time, maybe we can come up with 10, 15, 20 million dollars, because the money is out there to get this facility up and running, with or without the county. Eventually, I think that if you had an operation here that was working at Wapato, it'd be pretty hard to deny the fact that it would be successful. I have contacted 2 other very successful clinics. One's in Providence, Rhode Island, and the other one is in San Antonio, Texas. In fact, what's his name? Homer Williams visited down there. I even talked to the lady down there that met with him. They have a 73 to 93% success rate, and all of them are in a facility. They are not out in neighborhoods in 50 or 60 different places where they're back on the street. They still have all their connections that you're basically encouraging them to help themselves when they're pretty much helpless. And that's to me, that's it in a nutshell.
Well, the other thing we got to remember, we're talking about human beings.
Right. Absolutely.
I mean, we're looking at a winter coming up at this point in time, and they were already projected there will be death.
Yeah.
It's already increased, and we've got this open door policy, this open street policy aspect of it. And the fact of the matter is that that's the main thing. We got kids and moms, and just like he made that point aspect of it. Yeah. So this winter coming up, that might be the time, if you will, to have this Blue Ribbon Committee meet.
Right now.
But at the same time, make those beds available. Make those beds available to the folks that are here now. I mean, it doesn't hurt, because if in fact he's going to tear it down.
Well, the other thing is that property is not that remote. We live on Hayden Island. It's 12 minutes away from me. It was interesting. Just yesterday, I went over and I visited Hazelnut Grove. I visited the Kenton Women's housing that they have over there. But probably more to the point, I went to Dignity Village and I talked to Shaggy. That's the guy that's at the gate. And I asked him, how long you've been here? And he says, I've been here 2 years. It took me that long to move from a tent to one of these wooden structures they have. But there's 2 TriMet buses parked right outside the gate. Wapato is over in the Port of Portland property with a 4-lane road that leads to it. And on the other end of that is St. John. So there's no problem getting bus service at all. I do not think that's a hurdle. I think that's been bantied about, but I think that's just not true.
Right up front. I'm just going to say point blank as far as that. After I went through that facility, just like you said, you go through that facility. I mean, it is a top. Now, Hoffman Construction was the one, a local construction company, built it. Okay, and they did a heck of a job on this particular building. Probably. And when you look at it, I mean, it's so perfect for everything. It doesn't even look like a jail in many ways.
They even have that entry point where, as people are referred there.
Intake.
Right, intake. I talked to Haven for Hope down in San Antonio, and they said, well, we have about 12 people, full-time staff, that are dealing with the people that come in on a daily basis, as many as, I think she said 1,500 a month. And then they refer them or they keep them. It all depends on what the person's, tragic position is or what they need. Maybe they only need a leg up. Maybe they need a couple months worth of rent or something. But that's at the easiest end of people to deal with. So
then there's the bond situation.
I don't think it's paid off
yet. The public is still be paying for something that they sold for $5 million. We've got over $95 million that was left on the table, that was signed off by the county, basically Deborah Kafori, and the other 4 council people, commissioners, if you will, who barely says anything about anything, but they're all responsible for this piece. And naturally, Wheeler is part of the process because the county and the city work together. And and another thing that comes to mind is that we just recently went through a situation where we were possibly facing a large demonstration. Remember that?
Oh yeah.
This large demonstration that was going to be downtown aspect of it. And then I can still remember when I went down to City Hall after that whole situation, that how much money did we set aside for leasing beds with the anticipation of having a rioting and this, that, and the other. They had to pay someone to hold those beds, if you will. But they haven't released that figure yet. How much did that whole situation cost the city of Portland and the county?
Well, then the other thing in this 2018 budget, there's $34.75 million that are things that are maybe duplicate of what would be provided at Wapato. They've got $877,000 for portable toilets with staffing to go around to the different streets. I guess you have to wait until that thing shows up. That's not going to happen. But that's $877,000. There's $500,000 for street response, which basically is saying instead of having the police show up, they want to have a nurse. They want to have somebody of a different, a different service level. $182,000 for in 2 years to launch a mental health and nursing triage. That's $182,000. Just basically just try to figure out how to do it. Nothing's going to happen for 2 years. $500,000 for addiction treatment. No specifics about how, where, and when that's going to happen. And then there's $32 million for the Joint Office of Homeless Services. Okay, you know, it looks like we can get an awful lot of them into the Wapato facility, and you've got all that money there, and then they got a 311 call line that they're going to improve so that Portlanders can access city information. That's $662,000 for a system that's basically up and running. Maybe you just need another couple of staff people. And then Mayor Wheeler gets on and says, well, we have $100 million plus for affordable housing. I'm a realtor for 40 years, just about 40 years. In my opinion, there is no affordable housing. I think there's subsistence housing. Call it what it is. And at that point, maybe I'll listen to you. But to think, when you call around to these different agencies and ask them this one question, how do you give people some place to live, call it their own, when they have problems, especially of addiction, mental health, et cetera, is that the way to go? And they all say no. You give them the services that they need first. You help them get retrained. They help them get a job. And in the meantime, you also come up with housing for them. You know, it's sort of the cart before the horse, as far as I'm concerned. But that's $100 million on top of the $34.75 million. There's plenty of money.
Well, show me the money, and show me the money, and show me what you have done with the money you already have.
That's right.
And in many ways, in all due respect, many of these people don't even have the background. That's the problem a lot of times.
Should we vote for this again?
That's right. That's right. I mean, show me the money. Where have you spent the money?
Give me 90 businesses to send $1,000 to. I'll have the title company name available, and we can at least buy some time.
Well, and then, like I said, we got 3 months of bad weather that's coming.
Yeah.
It's here.
At least make those beds available to the human being, to these Portlanders, if you will, that are living here now, right now. And I mean,
that
it's
facility
really
is still like brand new inside.
Oh, brand new. I mean, just spanking new. I mean, wow.
What a waste.
Oh, wow. It's well, look here. We got about another 6 minutes or so or whatever. And next week, we're going to be going on. We're going to be doing some more time. I just want to make sure I get this in. Bernie Gusto was sheriff at that point in time. Dan Noley was the sheriff when they were actually going through that whole process aspect of it. I'm still looking for Dan, so I might be able to get Dan here, too. Because what they were talking to, and I can read more about this piece, but the bottom line is that they were talking about the anticipation of needing that particular facility. That was committed peace, but politics got in the middle of it, in all due respect, and it just carried forth. But anyway, Dan Noley and I'm gonna try to get Dan, but Bernie Gusto for fact will be here next Sunday, and we're gonna talk about this facility, and talk about that way, and then probably hopefully we'll have some more between now and then. Right. That we might be, and hopefully we'll get to Jordan, and hopefully Jordan will understand.
The clock is ticking.
It's ticking big time, and but what I can see Jordan, in all due respect, saying, okay, fine. All we need to do is pick up the cost.
He needs to see somebody in writing
serious.
That signs a lease, and if that's one of the agencies that is in town already, I don't think anybody cares as long as a plan comes out of this that works.
Yes,
and that's
from the
all
governor on time.
That's what
and
he wants to
he
see.
made it very, very clear. This is long term, just like you said about the lease. He said, "I'll sign up a lease for $1 or whatever for 5 years, and then at the end of 5 years, if everything's working all right, then go. He'll sign it up for another 5 years." And I like that idea because he is saying he want to make sure that it's service to people. And we definitely need it big time the way things are going right now. Okay, so good on.
What's your next playtime to see this again?
Next playtime? Oh yeah, put that on there too while we're still talking.
Or before we leave.
Right.
Put a link on there.
Yeah. It's already there. Just put the playtime over and above us while we're still talking at this point in time. But anyway, the next playtime is next Tuesday at 12 noon. 12 noon, channel 23.
And when's the next one after that?
After that is Friday. Friday at 8 o'clock. 8 p.m. on channel 22. And channel 22. And then you can get it on YouTube. You can get it on YouTube, Oregon Voter Digest, Oregon Voter Digest, and you can get it. But please share it with your friends.
Right.
The word has to get out to the voters, because remember, you paid for this. You paid for this. And hopefully this is going to be a motivation and
Right.
incentive to make sure when you get your ballots this time around, make sure you understand who's running and ask them for their resume. What have they done?
Well, speaking of resumes, I mean, it was quite the interesting thing to be at a Monday roundtable conference in Jordan Schnitzer's office. Homer Williams was there, and he's very impressive. But he got even more impressive when he did this announcement. You could see the man has passion and sympathy and empathy.
Oh, yes.
I mean, it was all there.
Yes.
And when he actually said, well, you know, if we get this thing up and running, I'll donate it. You know, that's a $7 million donation, besides the cost that he's already accrued. So.
Well, the other thing you might add too, see, he wasn't the original owner.
Right.
He wasn't the original owner. What I envision is I see someone that was sitting somewhere or another and heard about this and contacted the initial owner, okay, in the same business, so to speak, and say, look here, let me take a shot at this. We got to keep this here within our community.
Well, it's with the
Because
right
we
owner
need-
now, because
it's
he
with the
wants
right owner.
He wants to see it work.
Exactly, and I'm sure we might be able to at least, pick up the bill at this point in
Yeah.
time, assuring him that the next 90 days, priority one is to make sure we use those beds for those people to avoid, if you will, the same catastrophe last year, but with the people that have died.
And that, like I said, that number, I hate to say it, is probably just a fraction of who died, because
Oh,
that's
yes.
only who was reported
Yes.
dying in a
Yes.
hospital.
Yes. Yes.
That's a little scary.
Yes, yes. So I'm sure glad we did this piece, and I want to thank the two guys that are here with me now, and especially Jordan.
Yes.
Especially
absolutely.
Jordan, because I tell you, I was there. I visited the facility. I was sitting up in the press corps,
Okay.
and I had the opportunity to listen to what he had to say. And there were two or three other people that were there that basically said that they were there, if you will, to respond. But in all due respect, he made it very clear. They're not at that level. They got to bring someone in that can totally take responsibility. And right up front with it, responsibility is supposed to be, i.e., we the people, because government is of the people, by the people, and for the people. We're paying the bill.
Yeah, right.
And we got Oregonians that are sitting up here going through these kind of changes. We got to attack this issue, and we can talk about the big picture, but like I said, that'll come out of these discussions. So hopefully they'll get back to the table and call Gordon up or whatever. But we got to go on and get this committee together. So next year, in all due respect, next time around, next week, we're going to do another piece on this subject matter. And Jeff, hopefully you'll be back.
Hopefully I have a check in my hand. They're going to the title
That sounds
company
good.
to
And then we can talk
sign a
about
lease.
this. Okay, sounds good. Okay. Well, now you've had it. And
Thank the
again,
crew.
And thanks the crew and everybody that's here. You've got Patrick here, and like I said, I might be making a special announcement next week. A special announcement, because I am very, very serious about this issue, and someone has to step up to the plate. And again, thank you very, very much for being with us. I'll see you next week.
Thank you, Bruce.
Have a good one. Thank you, buddy.